Formula One is in a crisis where most sports have controversies related to gambling scandals or cheating scandals or relationship scandals. Formula One has a different type of problem. It freaking sucks. Okay, it doesn't suck all the time, but the majority of times and a majority of seasons since the new century, Formula One has sucked since the racing is not always the best. It's very inconsistent, is a better way to put it, since sometimes you'll experience the best race you have ever seen by the F1 drivers, and the very next race, all the drivers are either insanely stupid, leading to stupid moments, or the race itself is just so boring. This leads to many people criticizing the sport for being terrible and overrated. In my opinion is, they're right, but not totally right, because clearly something works. If F1 was really as bad as some people say, then we wouldn't have good racing like ever. Why is it sometimes in a certain condition F1 is good, and other times in the same conditions F1 is bad? Clearly, Formula One is not as simple as some people would like you to believe, since there are so many factors that go into this. It may as well be a literal country with the amount of regulations and governing positions. So I set up my mission today to find out, why is F1 bad? What is really wrong with it? But I'm a man of democracy, as noted by my Discord server name that you should totally join. So instead of me making my opinion and saying what I think, I am not the only F1 watcher. So I asked you, the community, 2 questions. What do you think is wrong with F1, and how would you fix it? I will highlight some responses that you guys left and talk about them, and then see how realistic the chance is that the FIA and FOM could actually implement your changes. And I'll give my opinion. So I think we could all have a little bit of fun today. So if you want more fun, or to just share your wacky takes or stories, go join the Discord to do that, and subscribe if you're new, because you're a good little boy, aren't you? So enough yapping, and let's get to quacking.
A good weather for a race, but especially for a dog.
Like I mentioned in the previous segment, we're going to talk about your takes and see if the FIA and FOM could realistically implement them. So let us begin with probably the most common take I have seen: the cars themselves. Duh, right? In a sport where the cars are the main vessel of entertainment, if they suck, then the racing would suck. It's not rocket science. And regarding the cars, the community seems split in 2. One side of the community says the cars produce too much dirty air and thus make racing harder for the drivers, while the other side says it's instead the car size that's the issue, since the cars are taking up too much space on the racetrack. Of course, a real F1 fan would know both sides are absolutely right. These 2 issues both do exist, so the real discussion is, which will be better in fixing F1? Less dirty air or smaller cars? Well, let's dissect the issue, because again, nothing in Formula One is as simple as making one change and then boom, problem solved, because each of them have their major benefits and major drawbacks. For starters, regarding dirty air is an issue that will always persist in not just F1, but racing in general. Dirty air, for those who don't know, is basically the phenomena where air from the car ahead gets pushed onto the car behind, and depending on how close they are, the air is all scrambled and messy and not flowing, which leads to understeeriness and difficulty to properly catch up. This issue, like I said, will never get fixed, since according to the rules of nature, I don't think we can simply remove oxygen, but we can't control the severity of it. The general thinking is that more downforce creates more dirty air. If air is traveling through many components and pathways in the aerodynamics, then the dirty air will be more severe. So by removing some of these components, there's less space for the air to travel, and thus less dirty air. But there is an issue. More downforce also creates greater speed, and if F1 prides itself on being the fastest series there is, then I think you see the issue, because they could create a car that is fast and has minimal aerodynamic innovation, but they risk being only like 0.2 faster than, say, WEC, or perhaps even slower, when they should honestly be seconds faster. It's already a huge controversy if an F2 driver is within 2 or 3 seconds of an F1 driver, so imagine if many other series are also in that range. Now, truthfully, I kind of don't fucking care, because yes, I want F1 to be fast, but like, if that means the racing is just abysmal dog shit, then I'm sorry, I'll go watch IndyCar or something. Sure, they're like 6 or 8 seconds slower, but the racing is really peak, but it's not perfect. And that leads to our second talking point: car size. IndyCar has some huge cars, and it really shows in street tracks, since if you can't overtake at turn 1 or at least one more turn, you can't overtake at all. F1 suffers the same issue, since again, it's apparent at street tracks. Monaco was already a really tight circuit in like 1970. Imagine now with cars nearly double the size of them. And even on normal tracks like Monza or Imola, tracks are too narrow for the cars nowadays, which leads to people saying that they should be smaller instead of the tracks getting bigger. Also, with the cars growing in size, they obviously increase in weight, making the cars more difficult to drive and slower, which of course doesn't help with the racing. So when it comes to the car issue and which one is more detrimental to racing, I'm going to say dirty air is the far more severe issue, but there is a way to fix it, and that involves making the cars smaller. It's the best of both worlds, since if the cars are smaller, aerodynamic pathways are smaller as well, which does lead to less dirty air on top of the removal of some complicated bits on the larger cars, and the cars are now much more fit in many racetracks, leading to the ability for drivers to actually race side by side and not take up the whole track, plus the reduction in weight from that. 2026 seems like a step in the right direction, and while that step may be like a centimeter forward, at least they're moving forward. One thing can be agreed upon though, these regular cars were so horrible, and I pray Formula 1 never touches the ground effects ever again. So with the cars themselves being identified as a big issue, what else is affecting the sport? Well, the second most common complaint I am seeing is that race decisions are horrible and it takes you out of it most of the time. This can be reduced to about 3 things: the race decisions, so like the safety car, session delays, red flags, all of that; stewards' decisions, so the penalties issued and the racing rules in general; and of course, MBS and the other governing officials. What, you mean to tell me people in higher power don't do decisions for the people but instead for their own profits? It's a tale as old as time, so let's begin with the issue regarding MBS and the management as a whole. Now, they don't actually do anything when it comes to the racing other than create the regulation of car, but we already talked about that, so let's move on to why they're actually so controversial. Basically, it's because most decisions done today by them don't seem to be for the fans, but instead for their own profits. And before I speak my truth, let me be the corniest guy in college discussions and play devil's advocate. Formula 1, my dudes, is really expensive. I mean, do you think a world championship that goes around the world for the entire year is cheap? The FI and FOM need to make a profit on the sport, and despite nearly every event being sold out, it's still barely enough money to keep the sport afloat. So that's why we have the FI and FOM advocating for more races on the calendar, along with adding more sprint race venues. And at the same time, they do understand the fans want good racing, which is why in recent times, sprint weekends have moved to the later part of the season, since they do bring more drama than in the beginning. 8 points in China, whatever dude, it's the beginning of the season. But 8 points in Qatar, holy shit, this could decide the damn title. And even though the new additions to the calendar are mainly street tracks, they are supremely cheaper to make than creating a new purpose-built grade 1 track for obvious reasons. Unless they want to build a city around it like in Korea. So while yes, the recent decisions by the FI and FOM/Liberty Media seem to be taken solely for profit does seem bad, it does make sense, since again, this sport is ridiculously expensive to keep afloat. So with that done, let me explain to you why the FIA is still wrong. Personally, I don't want more races in the calendar, and what doesn't help is that they are at such weird places. Do we really need 2 Spanish Grand Prix and the Madrid street track to replace the classic Barcelona circuit? Is Miami really deserving of a place? Was Vegas necessary? I mean, if they don't want to build new purpose grade 1 tracks, why not just go to a pre-existing one? Why not go back to India, go back to Germany, go back to Portugal? Recent reports say that F1 wants a Grand Prix in Thailand and want it to be a street track, but there's a pre-existing grade 1 track in Thailand already. Yes, it's not the best circuit, but why shut down a city for a weekend and inconvenience the normal people instead of just going to the countryside to race at an already built track? And on the topic of strange decisions, the racing rules, I've already gone in depth on them and why I hate them, many times in fact, so I'll keep this one very short. The rules are stupid. The main problem seems to be the ahead at the apex rule, where basically, if 2 cars are fighting, the one ahead at the apex of a corner can dictate the battle. So let's say the one ahead pushes the guy off circuit and didn't even try to be subtle with it. If the outside and behind driver comes back on track, even just alongside, let alone ahead, they get penalized, while the driver who drove him off gets away scot-free. This rule is abused by many because basically, if you're under pressure, just push your guy off road and there's nothing stopping you besides a stupid little apex. Or if you're desperately behind somebody, just send an unholy dive bomb and chances are you're now ahead at the apex despite braking 50 meters late, and now you could push your guy off road and overtake. Is that not fair or what? It's crazy. I hate the rules, so I say abolish the damn thing and penalize drivers for being stupid and aggressive instead of basically rewarding it. Also, a lot of the community mentioned how how there needs to be permanent stewards, since even with the dumb rules we have, the penalties are inconsistent because every week basically we have a new body of officials dictating penalties, and of course it leads to inconsistency. So essentially, I agree with all of you guys since all this stuff really is bad, so all of you except Aaron gets a gold star. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Finally, the community seems set on another issue, and that is regarding the tires currently being used and issued by F1 and of course the manufacturer Pirelli. This goes back to the cars being an issue, but the reason why I didn't mention them then was because tires are their own separate thing, and to be honest, I don't know what to say here. I mean, the community said things like they suck, they are stones that don't degrade, at least the boring strategies, and thus a predictable race. And I mean, I agree. I have said these exact things many times in my videos, but the reason why I don't know what to say is because I feel like tires have always been an issue. If the manufacturer makes a good tire, then F1 will create some dumb rule to offset that benefit, or vice versa. And right now, it seems F1 are just throwing darts at a board of ideas. Recently, there was a report, as one community member mentioned, that F1 is looking at making every race a mandatory two-stop. It will either be forced to put all tire compounds during the race or just be forced to stop twice. They are doing this because two-stop races often tend to be way more fun and better than a one-stop race. Like I said, a one-stop is predictable since everyone is on the same tires and pitting at the same time, but a two-stop? A two-stop can open up so many different strats for the team, since they could do soft, medium, medium, or hard, soft, soft, medium to hard, which he has a one-stop, but they would need to conserve tires way more since the race is a two-stop. But see, that's the thing. If every race becomes a mandated two-stop, is anything fixed? Because if the tires themselves are still bad, then all we are doing is basically making either two-stops predictable or giving us the same problem we have now, just with an extra step. The solution then would obviously be make the tires more degradable, but what's the limit? And what if we are at the limit? Will the problem come back? If every race has the tires degrading too quick now, pit stops may become a problem and people would want more durable tires so they could race longer, and now we are in a cycle. But you know what I say? Give the people what they want. Yes, the issue we're complaining about right now may be a solution later, but who cares? I want good fun, and right now, fun is racing. So let's make the tires less durable and the cars better for racing and have some damn fun. Because let's be real, should a soft tire do nearly half the distance at COTA? I'm sorry, but the answer is no. But I will say one thing before I move on. Pirelli needs to stop getting blamed for everything when it comes to the tires. Yes, sometimes they are clueless on their own tire, and that's really embarrassing, but I think that goes to show that F1, who asked them to build a tire that way, are the real monsters. Pirelli are being asked to build a tire and they build it. Meanwhile, F1 asked them to make the tire in a specific way that, in accordance to F1, is dog shit. So before I talk about how realistic these solutions could get implemented, let's talk about some other issues and solutions I like that weren't so common. Some people said that a problem F1 has is DRS, and despite it helping racing, it becomes the only form of racing at times, which leads to all overtakes happening on the straights. The solution presented would be to get rid of DRS and ERS while we're at it, and use push to pass instead, like in IndyCar or even F1 before 2014. I like this solution a lot, since I do agree that F1 is too reliant on energy management and DRS, so by having push to pass, we can maybe get some strategy when it comes to pushing. Do you save your push to pass for the final laps, or do you use it all and extend your gap to an unholy amount? I think it would be fun, plus it gets rid of the huge heavy batteries in the car, so yeah, I agree with this one. Another issue presented by some people was that F1 is now essentially a race to turn 1 and or a qualifying championship. This mainly relates to the car, since again, in a car where dirty air is shitted out more than a fart, racing becomes difficult, so all of your moves have to happen at turn 1 or even in qualifying, since overtaking throughout the race will be difficult otherwise. This issue has kind of always been present in modern times, but nowhere near as bad today, and as for the solution again, make better cars. Finally, I want to mention engine sound, since some people did say that it was an issue. F1 is a motorsport. Crazy, I know, and engines are loud, but with recent developments in greener technology, that is killing the engine noise that we used to have, and it's being replaced with quiet hums or just less loud engines. Many people said to bring back the V8s or V10s, and while they would be nice, I gotta disagree. Personally, I think engine noises and video game cosmetics to be the same. Yes, having cooler things would be indeed cool, but if the the gameplay or racing in this case is still bad, then I kinda don't care about the cool things anymore, and vice versa, since if I look like a bum in the game but the gameplay is cool, then I'm fine with that sacrifice. Yes, ideally I would love for the engines to be loud that I need earplugs, but if the racing is going to be bad, then I don't care about the engines anymore. I just want good racing. So, will any of this actually happen? Because we could sit here all day and say how F1 needs to do this to be better, but is it all for nothing? Well, I'm happy to report that we don't need to doom post because these things will happen and F1 will become better. Mostly. I say mostly because not everything can happen. For example, when it comes to the FIA and F1's decisions, I don't think anything would change there, or at least for a long while, since again, the sport is very expensive and they want the most amount of money as well, which means taking up offers from countries like Saudi Arabia to build a stupid Mario Kart track and or creating useless street circuits that hurt the people of the cities. I don't see how any of this will change soon, especially given who is currently leading it, so I'm sorry to say, more MBS is in store for us. But when it comes to things like tires and the cars, I do believe F1 is trying. It's not like they hate us and make the cars bad on purpose. I'm sure when they were discussing ground effects, they didn't think it would end up this bad. Ground effects were supposed to clean up dirty air, not create more, so they are trying to make the cars better. And when it comes to the tires, Pirelli seem just as mad as us sometimes, and F1 themselves have cited how they do need better tires. So I'm sure that in due time, the cars will get smaller and smaller moving forward, and the tires will become less bullshit, and things can be all right yet again. I hope. So anyways, that was what you guys thought is wrong with F1. I have nothing more to say other than I hope this sport can be good always, since when this sport has good racing, no other sport comes near it in terms of entertainment and enjoyment. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the flock for their continued support. Make sure you join if you want cool benefits as well as just helping me out. And anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe since it really helps me out. And make sure to let me know in the comments what you think of this. And as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.